Welcome to Soundbite, the podcast where we talk to interesting people in the Maritimes about their stories, specialties, and insights. I'm Caitlin Dutt, one of your co-hosts.
And I'm Tim Porter. We're back again, Caitlin.
Yes, we are.
We made it off the pickleball court.
We did make it off the pickleball court.
Did you like I actually listened to that episode. Did you listen to it?
I listened to every other episode except for that episode. No? And I think it was just because I lost, so I couldn't listen back to it again. The shame was too much for me.
And I'm really sorry that I kind of lorded that over you, that I won.
Yeah, you posted in the work group chat. I'm very sorry. And I was just like, I had to hide my face for like
I probably
4 hours.
I did a little too much dancing, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. But I made that Instagram reel, and I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah.
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 But anyway, we're here to talk more.
There were some comments on the Instagram reel. I don't know if any of our listeners have seen the Instagram reel, but please go to our Instagram and check it out. It's
exactly.
Yeah, we don't do a lot of social media that way, so it's kind of a TikTok, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a little fun piece of creative video making.
But TikTok will come eventually.
I don't know. Instagram Reels is basically TikTok, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So we have a more
Gotcha.
I don't know if it's a more serious episode today.
Today?
Yeah.
No, we're talking about barbecue season, right?
Oh,
Isn't it barbecue season? Isn't that what we're talking about?
You're right.
Yeah? I think we've got the grill out back. And somebody brought the steaks, I'm quite sure. Do we know anyone who brought steaks?
I don't know. Could it be Alex Scholten?
Alex?
Who could it be?
Alex, did you bring steaks?
Yeah, we've got some fine T-bones, some nice tomahawk steaks too. So
can you make a call and bring some up?
I will definitely make a call.
Okay. By the end of the podcast.
Who's going to be cooking the steaks? We're in here in this room.
We'll find somebody. Leo can do it.
True, Leo. This is going to be our running joke of who's Leo throughout this podcast, because we're always referring to him and who's this guy?
Yeah. Leo was my partner in the pickleball.
That's true.
Yeah. Okay. So, Alex Scholten. Please introduce him, Caitlin.
So, you've got quite a list of things that you've done over the course of your life. I don't even know where to start.
This is your life.
Yeah, jack of all trades, master of none. So, yeah.
No, that's okay. That's perfectly okay. So,
what has he done?
We'll start off. You owner and operator of Victory Meat Market. Very cool. You also volunteer quite a bit in the community. I see Greener Village here, youth soccer. You participate in the Business Immigrant Mentorship Program, vice chair of the Fredericton Community Foundation. But you're also you were elected to the mayorship of New Maryland.
So was.
Congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you.
So I really kind of shortened that because, you were a lawyer and you moved to Ontario, and then you moved back to New Maryland. You've been in New Maryland for 20 years. And then you went from being a lawyer to going into small business. I could go on and on.
This life is moving by quite fast.
Yeah. You've lived a very full life.
Yeah.
It's been a challenge. So
hopefully not too big of a challenge.
Still trying to find myself, really. So
aren't we all? Yeah. Aren't we all?
Right. So I guess, you were a lawyer once, but you were fighting that urge to be a small business owner.
Exactly.
And now you've realized your dream.
I have, actually. I practiced law for about 20 years, but off and on. The lure or the pull back into business. I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs. My father and his 6 brothers had started a chain of convenience stores around mainly Fredericton, but in other parts of the province. And at one time they had upwards of 30 stores.
Yes.
So the
everyone's been to a Scholten's.
Yeah, but it's always seemed to pull me back. I knew the challenges my father and his brothers had. Coming from a background where they didn't have formal education and just the struggles they had on an everyday basis. The school of hard knocks was tough. And, my parents, when I was growing up, it was always pushed on me and my siblings that get an education so you don't have to struggle as much as we did. So I took that to heart and spent, on 3 degrees, and it's allowed me to move in and out of different areas as well too. So it was a long journey to where I am today, but back to my entrepreneurial roots anyway.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're a co-owner of the Victory Meat Market, and you've opened up 2 stores now, right? You've got the one downtown, which is the iconic one that's been there forever.
Yep.
And then you just opened one in Lincoln as well.
We did.
Yeah. So is that is kind of do you have a vision for expansion, or is that kind of going to be it for now? Or
no, we looked at what has kind of made us successful over the years, and Victory has had both a retail operation and a wholesale operation out of our store downtown. And we supply a number of restaurants and small supermarkets around the city. So we started thinking, okay, well, let's look at this model and see if there's something to this that we could expand into communities that are experiencing food desert type situations that would support a business like ours. And, we started looking on a radius of about 60 kilometers from our downtown core, knowing that we had transportation with our delivery capacity, all the products that we got and the volume that we had by supplying our retail stores and our wholesale operations. We looked at those and thought, okay, maybe we can look at expanding and getting more than one location. So when we started that search around the greater Fredericton area, I remember with my business partner and I, we spent a weekend driving around, and we drove as far as Nakawick and Woodstock and Harvey and Heartland and, different communities around. And on our way back from Ormuckto, we passed a site that was previously a gas station and a mini mart. And as we're driving past, I noticed in the front window, there was a sign that said for rent or for lease. And kind of stopped the car and drove back and took a look at this site and went back to the office and started looking at, the population base in Lincoln. At that time, it was one of the fastest growing communities in New Brunswick, in Canada for that matter. There was about 8,500 people in that area who were, from what we saw, underserved. Mm-hmm. So the idea came together pretty quickly after that in terms of what we wanted to do and the potential of that location.
So I'll speak to the one downtown. That's the one I know most familiar with. So it's kind of known for its customer service. Obviously, it's known for its meat products, but the produce there is very good, very fresh produce. And where do you get this produce? That because a lot of small places, they have a lot of real problems with produce.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that too, because when Victory's 85 years old. We took it over about 7 years ago. We changed the name actually to reflect, as you said, the produce kind of slant or the way we were going. So now it's Victory Meat and Produce Market. And that was recognition from Seth Chippen previously, who had operated the business, that buying habits were changing. People looking for only meat was changing, and looking at expanding the offerings, getting into fresh fruit and vegetables, and making it more of a full service supermarket. So we've expanded on that even more, expanding our grocery lines as well. So you get the full meal deal, literally and figuratively. But in terms of where we source, wherever possible, we source locally. We want to work with our local farmers. The product is fresher, tastes better, and it's always valued by our customers. And I think that's what really differentiates us, where we do as much as possible source locally. Unfortunately, local is not always possible given the time of year. There's not a big chance to get local kale or local peppers in the middle of January. So we source from major fruit and vegetable markets in Montreal, and we have deliveries 4 or 5 times a week from Montreal.
Mm-hmm. And it's it's tough being a small business these days.
It is.
As you see a bunch of places just closing down, especially the past year, I feel like we've seen a lot of places close down in the
Particularly
downtown. Yeah, exactly. And especially with, the cost of goods going up, it must be tough being a small business. How do you deal with those challenges and still keep your business competitive?
Yeah, no, it's very, very challenging. In our industry, especially with food and having food shipped in for the better part of the year, the cost of fuel has a huge impact. So I remember when I first started, our cost to have a pallet of food delivered to us was about $70 a pallet. Now we're talking about $260, $270, $300, and this is over a period of 7 years. So we've gone through COVID, which had a huge impact. We've seen inflationary impacts the last couple of years, and now with the most recent spike in fuel costs, everything goes up. And that's really disheartening because every single order that we get in from our suppliers, you see the increases and you see the increases and you see the increases, and you know what the community is experiencing with, the rising cost of living and how challenging it is for people to just make ends meet. And food is something that is always going to be a necessity. So we try to maintain that. But I remember several years ago, back in the early '80s, my father's business went into receivership. That was a time when interest rates went to 24%. And they had expanded probably too quickly at that time, just at the wrong time. So interest rates go to 24%, and the economy at that time was very, very challenging as well. So having experienced that previously and seeing the impact that's had, it really stuck with me over the years too. And knowing that if we can have an influence on that with local consumers, we try to do the best we can as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's something else that happened in your life in the last couple of weeks that's fairly exciting, right, Alex?
I've heard that, yes.
Yeah.
So you're the new mayor. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mayor of New Maryland.
Mayor of New Maryland. That has a nice ring to it. Yeah.
It does. We've got a wonderful community. New Maryland is really a wonderful place. I joke often when I'm on conference calls or things like that the sun always shines in New Maryland. So I'm very privileged to have won the election. I've sat on council for the last 10 years, and we have some very interesting opportunities coming forward. We've had some challenges where we haven't had housing options or alternate housing options in the community. And we have the ability now to really impact that with a new well field coming online, because that was one of the things that was kind of holding us back for the last couple of years. But new housing, the need for broadening our tax base, 98% of our taxes come from residential property tax, which isn't a healthy situation. So I'd like to really put a stamp on that with my background in business and see if we can attract some more commercial offerings, some office space, things like that to broaden the tax base and to give our residents more service. So those are some of the big things. As with other communities in New Brunswick, our residents are struggling with finding a doctor. So we had a clinic previously, but about 7 or 8 years ago, the doctor retired, and we've got nothing in the community. So we want to really focus on that. And there's some things I'd like to do to impact that positively. So a lot of opportunities, but the challenge is going to be with residents who very much like the lifestyle that they've become accustomed to in New Maryland. The large properties, the larger homes, the excellent school we have in the community, and that kind of pace that they've become accustomed to. Having some change, like I've just talked about, is going to be a challenge, and we have to do that in a manner that still meets the character of the community And so having outreach to our residents will be very important as well.
Well, you have, I'm not sure if it's luck or not, but you've got a giant Costco right on your border.
I've heard that, yes. So,
So that must really impact things in terms of development. And, you know, it's got a gas station. It's got, you know, all the conveniences of a Costco, the hot dogs and the, you know,
French fries, ice cream.
Everything else they sell, right? And so it must impact on what you can do in terms of business, right?
Absolutely.
Like it sucks a lot of business away. Right?
I've often called it the black hole of retail.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
well, you would feel that with Victory, but I mean, you'd feel that as well from your suburban village.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, we have a need for a coffee shop. You know,
of course.
We're not talking, you know, real complex or large operations, but something for the community to be able to meet and you know, sit down with friends and have a coffee. We don't have that right now.
That makes sense. So. You guys are just kind of all houses out there. Yeah. So that would be nice to kind of diversify things a little bit.
And I've often said that I think my car only knows how to turn into Fredericton. It doesn't know how to turn the other way into the community simply because we haven't had the services there. We've got a couple of gas stations and we have a great pub, Wetmore's Pub. And you know, there are some really nice businesses to start with. But expanding on that and getting some more diverse offerings for our residents, I think, is really important.
And were you kind of hearing that when you were campaigning at the doors a lot, or
definitely, yeah?
Was there any other issue that really popped up?
Well, I mentioned the healthcare issue too. There's a big concern there, but the alternate housing option or options was one of the big ones. We've looked at also some infrastructure work that needs to be done. It's an interesting community in that it was incorporated roughly 30 years ago. And pre-incorporation, you had a number of subdivisions that were already developed. When they were developed, there was no sidewalks, there was ditches instead of culverts. And as a result, you've got those communities who sit in stark comparison to the newer communities that came online after incorporation when we have building bylaws. Where, you know, if a developer came in, there was a requirement that you help with the infrastructure and that you build sidewalks and you have drainage and all those kinds of things too. So you've got that different type of neighborhood from one subdivision to another, and that often creates some challenges in terms of what the residents believe they're getting for services or what they're getting from the village. The challenge that we get into, though, is infrastructure has gone up so much over the last several years. We had a report from our development officer a few years ago, or about a year and a half ago, on what the cost of infrastructure increases have been over a period of 3.5 years. So from COVID to 2025, and drainage alone had gone up by 250%.
Yeah.
251% actually, to be exact.
I don't doubt that.
Which is absolutely crazy. So with all of these neighborhoods that don't have, you know, culverts, that don't have sidewalks, that infrastructure would be exceptionally expensive. And I estimated in my head that it was probably 30 to 40 kilometers of road that, you know, the residents would love to see those things. But if we were to try to do that with a population of 4,500, it would be exceptionally expensive and exceptionally burdensome on residents too. So how we go about making those changes is going to be interesting.
And is the province a partner in some of this development in terms of, you know, looking at infrastructure or, you know, the healthcare center or that sort of thing? Like,
no question. The need to have provincial and federal support for some of the projects. I mentioned the well field that we have coming online. This is a $20 million well field. We have federal and provincial funding through the bilateral infrastructure agreement. And we paid, I think, 6.5 cents on a dollar for that project. That's something that if our residents had to pay for alone would be prohibitive. And you know, not only does this enable us to be able to grow and build some of the housing options that we talked about or the commercial offerings, but also there was a great concern that our existing well was coming to its capacity. When you see climate change issues like, long periods of drought, the well that we had was going quite low. And the concern was it wasn't replenishing as quickly. So there was a need for us to get that well field. So having federal and provincial funding to bring that online was absolutely critical. And going forward, any of those other projects, having federal and provincial support is going to be critical.
And what about other partners in the region? Like, what about other municipalities? So you've got a new election in Fredericton where they elected a new mayor, and you must have to get along well with some of your other regional neighbors like Hanwell and various others. So what are those relationships like right now for New Maryland?
They're great, actually, I have to
Right.
say. And I think one of the things that I'm so excited about is I've worked for the last 7 years with the Union of Municipalities of New Brunswick. And we represent all municipalities in the province. So that gave me an opportunity to sit at the table with all of my counterparts in other communities. So I've known, Mayor Hicks in Fredericton. I've known Mayor Morrison in Hanwell. I've known Mayor Powell in Ormukdo for many, many years. And then we've sat at the same table. We've advocated on behalf of municipalities, and with the province and with federal governments over the years. So the relationship I already have with them from that experience has been phenomenal. So I can really hit the ground running in terms of working with those other communities. And there's certainly some things that we're going to look at in terms of cooperative efforts. And the best example I'd give is we've been in talks with Hanwell to have some fire resiliency issues addressed. We have one road into the village, one road out of the village. We're looking at alternate routes in case of fire, should that, God forbid, should that ever
Right.
happen.
That's
So
smart,
working
yeah.
with Hanwell, there's already some movement afoot to see if we can, attach the communities. It would be beneficial to them as well, too.
Yeah,
So-
there's
Yeah.
always been this pitch to extend. Was it the Smith Road?
yes.
that would extend right through to
Yeah, because they are kind
New
of just
Maryland, right?
right beside each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
and then even going a little further afoot to Fredericton Junction and Tracy, and perhaps extending the Wilsey Road, going directly into those communities, and building up the road that's there, because I think the last few kilometers is not finished.
Right.
So if we could do that, we could potentially help them with getting traffic into Fredericton more efficiently, but also that would help reduce the amount of traffic on our highway, because right now all of those residents to get to Fredericton come around down our highway to get into town. And in the mornings, it can get pretty busy for about a half hour to 45 minutes. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, both communities, New Maryland and Hanwell, they have one road right into
Exactly.
basically into Fredericton, and then you've got the highway,
Yeah.
the highway, and
Yeah.
Not a lot of other places. So I know that, with municipalities have kind of gone through a little bit of a upheaval in the past 5 years with amalgamation and the redrawing of borders and everything. I know that affected Fredericton a lot. And I believe that it probably affected the election in Fredericton as well. Do you think that had any impact on New Maryland? And were the borders kind of redrawn in New Maryland, or were they mostly similar?
No, we remained the same, which
Okay.
I think, truth be told, we were quite surprised. There's some outlying communities near us that we had thought in the back of our mind that potentially they could be added to our community. It wouldn't have been a great fit because they don't have the infrastructure that we already have. One thing about New Maryland that's been, I guess, something that we can hang our hat on is when Jean-Guy Finn did a study on municipal reform several years ago, he identified key factors that should be taken into account to see if you meet the threshold to be able to support yourself and sustain your community. And two of those things were population base and tax base. And we measured quite well in both of those areas. So we're able to be sustainable on our own, which, as I said, it was through municipal reform, we didn't have any of the amalgamation. There was even speculation that we would be amalgamated into Fredericton. But I think we have enough of a buffer between the two communities that didn't happen either. And we are quite thankful for that because we view ourselves as being quite a bit different than Fredericton. In some ways, we're definitely dependent on the services and the things that our residents come to expect. But it's a good relationship. But as well, we view ourselves as having that slightly different characteristic.
Thanks to the UNB woodlot.
Exactly.
UNB Woodlot. The highway that
The
connects
DMZ.
the buffer.
Yeah.
The buffer zone.
The little space in between Costco and New Maryland.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Although you can usually buy fiddleheads along there.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
don't know.
this time of year.
I'm going to be honest, I don't really go to New Maryland a lot.
No, along the road. There's a guy along the road.
I don't really go along the road to New Maryland a lot.
You probably don't have any spare cash on you anyway.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I have
I think
my
he only takes cash.
credit card on my phone.
And you probably wouldn't need 50-pound bags of potatoes either, too, because he sells a lot of those as well. So.
No, I'm not really looking for
All
that.
cash business,
Yeah.
Kaylin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing of the past almost these days. Yeah.
Do you get a lot of cash at Victory these days, or is it all card?
No, well, since COVID, it's definitely gone much more card too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not convinced kids know how to count out cash.
yeah.
Do they?
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for kids. I can, but I know that there are definitely some people my age that can't like read the analog clock. I actually have an analog clock on my watch that I'm actually pretty proud
Well,
of.
the fact that you call it an analog clock,
Okay,
that's a giveaway. Kaylin.
okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll accept that.
Going old school. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
basically a watch.
Yeah.
It's like a record
A
player
Timex.
of watches.
Right.
But I would say too, it's not just the younger kids that we employ that have trouble making change, but we employ a lot of newcomers.
Yes.
And with a different currency
Sure, yeah.
and understanding the currency, that took a little bit of a learning curve for us to realize that the training is a little bit different. too.
Now,
So-
now, is that to cater to your clientele, or is that like kind of just a necessity that that is like in terms of finding workers? It is difficult to find work. You have to find, newcomers that maybe don't have a lot of experience. But I mean, is that kind of the challenge?
It's a little bit of both.
Right.
Through COVID, there was a great challenge to find employees.
Yeah.
And the previous owners had hired, just before we arrived, had hired a number of cashiers from Iran. And from their perspective, they basically saved the organization. With our clientele and the varied products that we offer, we have wanted to make sure we represent the community that we're selling to. And that's meant having staff that are reflective of those different communities too. So it's always interesting. What I find most gratifying in the business is bringing together a number of different cultures and creating a team and have everybody working so well together. And that then in turn is reflected with customers coming in. And you mentioned earlier about Victor being known for customer service. Having the ability to be able to work with customers of different ethnic backgrounds, with staff that are from their countries as well, in addition to staff that have been with us for 20, 25 years. That mix has made it really effective for us too.
Well, it's very noticeable just walking in, and you see people working there on the floor, and they're straightening up the produce and doing various things. And I mean, you don't see that in a lot of stores. Like a lot of stores you go in and there's nobody, right? Like nobody in the aisles that could ever help you with anything.
Yeah, that's true. It's very hard to find people sometimes.
and so you do feel it there, and maybe it's just because it's so small. But but you do feel it as something different, and you do feel that they're a team, that they work together.
Yeah.
And when you get up to the cash, they're working together. There's usually a couple of people, checking and bagging and various things, and carrying out the cars, and so you do feel it as a little different vibe than elsewhere. And maybe that's just it's a downtown thing. I don't know, but I guess we don't really want to dwell on being a downtown business and all the challenges, because we've discussed that before.
Yeah.
But it is a bit of a challenge to be downtown, and just people don't live in the downtown like they used to, or maybe I don't know. Maybe there's condos coming up now and there's more people. I don't know, Alex.
They probably want to, but the price of rent is too high.
Yeah.
That's what it is too.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Probably.
Well, there's a number of apartment buildings going up around us, and we look at the long-term growth plan of the city, and they've identified, I think, 4 or 5 different growth areas, and our area is one of those growth areas. So over the last 3 years, we've seen 3 more apartment buildings going up.
Over by the old train station, I suppose, there's a lot of development.
But not only there, the Racine property, you're looking at the Centennial Building, potentially with the hopefully someday.
I really hope so.
Yeah, but even and I know it's controversial, but even what's going to happen with the exhibition grounds.
Right.
Yeah.
So within a 2 or 3 kilometer radius of us, there's a number of developments going up.
Yeah.
Even on the corner of King and Westmoreland. There's a parking lot there now that has been sold and has been is ready for development of an apartment building.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So,
Now that you raised it, I think you want to talk about the exhibition grounds, don't you?
Oh gosh, I mean, it's not
that's my zinger, Karen.
Oh, that's
that
your
was my
zinger.
zinger.
I mean, I guess it's not something that
That's
would
my
directly
zinger.
apply to you
No,
as your
I'm joking.
town anyway.
joking.
So
I'm
you won't get any kickback from
I'm
that.
joking.
do you want to throw in the pool as well? Too, or
pool.
something?
We'll save
The
that for
pool
Mayor.
keeps getting brought up.
We'll save that for Mayor Hicks. Right?
Yeah.
Well, the pool. I guess you could chip in for the pool. I mean, that would be nice.
We had as a village or as a community, we had been involved in this from the start.
Actually, your cousin was a big advocate. Chris is a big
Chris is too. Yeah,
advocate of the pool. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, but we from the start, the village has been supportive of the development. We've met with the pool groups, and we were one of the 3 communities that were paying for the original consultancy studies and the development study. The challenge we got into is as this dragged on and dragged on and dragged on, the cost went from 24 million to 50 million to now the cost before even shovels hit the ground, $82 million.
Gosh.
We might as well just swim in the river. Let's just go up to the Nash Walk and swim across.
Great.
That,
I'm sure there would be no environmental impacts if we just poured some chlorine in there. It would be totally fine.
Let's go to the Mactaquac Head Pond.
Great.
We'll just swim there.
Awesome.
So this is less controversial than the exhibition grounds. Oh, good.
Everyone wants a pool.
Yeah. Well, and we still would like to support that as well. We have a lot of community members in New Maryland that had wanted us to support this from the start. I did hear it at a couple of the doors that I went to. It's certainly a project that's beneficial for the entire community, and that's not just Fredericton. That's all the outlying communities too. So we'll be asked to support that in some form in the future, I'm sure. And we're part of a greater community, and you mentioned that working with other communities as well. We're going to want to make sure we're at the table.
Sure. Yeah. Well, anyone with kids who had to experience the UNB pool, they know that we need a new pool.
Or seniors who are even more sensitive to the cold temperatures than that.
Okay, wait. You got to enlighten me on the UNB pool situation because
it's just kind of decrepit. It's gone past its. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Best before date. Yeah.
I've never used the UNB pool. Maybe that's for a good reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on from pools.
Okay.
Now it's time for your zinger.
My zinger. My zinger was already about the rising costs of groceries. So I already used that early on. That was way back when. But I would like to actually ask you about, you seem to have really a drive for volunteering in your community and giving back to your community.
Yeah.
What is that kind of like stemmed from?
Good question. I have a family that's been very involved in community for many, many years. My parents were awarded by the Rotary Club for their work with SafeGrad. They helped basically start SafeGrad.
Oh.
And other family members have been involved in various things. And growing up in that environment, caring for others in your community was very strong in terms of what our family was about. So the idea as well that being a business owner in the community, it's not fair to just simply go in and say, come and support my business without me supporting the community. And that has resonated very strongly with me and my business partner, quite frankly. So the desire to work with different organizations was there. Just the gratification that I get from having worked in some of those things, and then the Philanthropy in Action dinner last night is a good example of that. Mm-hmm. You've got a room full of 460 people who have all come together because they want to support the community, and having that kind of an environment and that kind of tone in the room, you could just feel the energy from that and the positivity from that too, and how much benefit that can have to our whole community. So the recipient last night, Lois Walker-Gillum, fantastic example of philanthropy in action. And, I take my lead from people like her and the great things that she does in the community. And I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can as well.
Mm-hmm. Lois was also she said her plea for a pool in her acceptance speech. Just to let you know, too. So the pool has been a reoccurring theme.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no, I like, do you have any like specific volunteer things that you're kind of focusing on right now?
Yeah, a little bit. So the Philanthropy in Action dinner last night was a big one. Mm-hmm. That's an effort of a relatively small team at the Fredericton Community Foundation. So I joined their board 2 years ago. So it's just a wonderful organization and a great group of staff members there from Calvin and the team who take on a lot more than they should be capable of, because it's such a small team, but they get so much accomplished too. I mentioned the Union of Municipalities in New Brunswick, wonderful organization that advocates on behalf of all municipalities in the province, and then sitting around the table with other elected municipal officials, and just understanding what they're doing in their communities to make things better. Learning from them, best practices, challenges that they're facing, and how they've gone about addressing things. That's been fantastic. And then Greener Village has been another real passion. I had the great opportunity of working with them on their funding campaign for the new food rescue center. Mm-hmm. And we started that campaign off wanting to raise about $4.5 million. And the concept was seen as so positive and so much addressing the issues of food insecurity in the community that the end financing or the end fundraising reached over $8 million. So the good that they're able to do there has been truly, truly tremendous. That's going to open June, July. So
so soon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No.
Nice.
So it's that's been a real passion. And after that, I joined their board as well. Unfortunately, through an election, I haven't been able to participate very much. I'm looking forward to getting back into that again too. But wonderful organization too.
Awesome. Well, unless you have any more questions, Tim, that's
in summary. So the mayor in Maryland is telling people to please slow down, stop speeding through that highway, right?
Exactly.
That's basically his message.
Yes, so that's one of the things you asked about that I should have said too.
Oh,
that
okay.
speeding is constantly a
Right.
concern in our community.
Oh, okay.
We have these long subdivisions that many have referred to as drag strips. So we have to find ways to address that too. So I have some ideas.
Do you have speed bumps?
We do not,
No?
but it's
Oh, well, there
something
you
that
go.
came up in the election too.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah.
Okay, I see. Do you want to elaborate on any of those ideas? Or
Yeah, there's definite traffic calming activities or things that we can look at, from speed radars, which we already have,
Okay.
to policing contracts.
Okay.
That's a story for another day. But we pay a great deal of money for our policing services, and at the end of the day, we don't have a high level of serious crime in our community. So therefore, the RCMP are stretched really, really thin. They're going to focus on communities where there is a high criminal rate. So we're actually subsidizing that because of the rate that we pay. And although I don't mind supporting other communities, at some point in time, we have to recognize that it's our taxpayer dollars that we're spending, and we want to make sure that we're getting the best bang for the buck we can. So that lack of visibility in our community to focus on something like speeding is definitely a big issue. So we need to do more.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Well, thank
All
you,
right.
Alex, for coming in.
That's my
Yeah,
pleasure.
thank you. Congrats on becoming mayor.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Soundbite, a production of Porter O'Brien and CHSR 97.9 FM. Special thanks to our podcast host, CHSR, our sound editor, March Rojas Velasquez, as well as Adam Porter, who provided our theme music. You can find all our episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube Music under Soundbite. You can also follow and support us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Soundbite Podcast.